Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Well, I'm sorry for that. For your sake, I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. But I play with a wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, Centime is my forte. I keep science for life.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of the science for life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
By the way, Lane, I see from your book that on Thursday night when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, yes, 8 bottles of champagne are entered as being consumed.
8 bottles and a pint, sir.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne?
I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine. I have often observed that in married households, the champagne is rarely of a first-rate brand.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I find it to be a very pleasant state. Though I've had little experience of it myself up to present, I've only been married once. And that was in consequence of a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I'm not quite sure I'm much interested in your family life, Lane.
It's not very interesting, sir. I prefer not to think about it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That will do, Lane. Thank you. Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. No, seriously, if the lower orders don't set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem to be, as a class, act absolutely with no sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, sir.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring anyone anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algie.
Well, I believe it's customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since Thursday?
Oh, in the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbors.
You got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. I never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
And Shropshire, yes, of course. Hello? Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why not?
Well, my dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolyn. I've come to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic about proposing. No, it is very romantic to be in love, but there is definitely nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one may be accepted, one usually is, I believe, and then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I will certainly try to forget that.
I have no doubt about that. The divorce courts were specially designed with those whose minds are so curiously constituted.
Oh, ha, ha, ha. There's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
But you have been eating them all this time.
That is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn, and Gwendolyn is devoted to bread and butter.
And what very good bread and butter it is, too.
My dear boy, you need not eat as if you were going to eat at all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
That is nonsense.
It isn't. It is a great truth, and it accounts for the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean by Cecily? I don't know anyone by the name of Cecily. What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone. Cecily? Like,
You rang? You rang?
Bring me that cigarette case Mr. Worthing left in the smoking room last time. Be kind here, please.
you mean to say that you have had my cigarette case all this time? I wish to goodness you would have let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
Well, there's no reason offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that is rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. Thank you. However, it makes no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, I find the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've only seen me with it 1,000 times. And besides, you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read what is written inside a private cigarette case. Just give it back to me.
Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. Half of modern culture depends on what one should read.
I don't propose to talk about modern culture with you. It is not something one should talk about in private. I simply want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone by the name of Cecily, and you said you didn't know of anyone of that name.
If you must know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. Lives in Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me.
Yes, but why does she call herself Little Cecily if she lives at Tunbridge Wells and is your aunt? From little Cecily with her fondest love.
Now, what is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. Surely that is a matter that an aunt should be able to decide for herself. You seem to think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. For heaven's sake, give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. There is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle? I can't quite figure that out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Ernest.
My name isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
Oops. You've always told me it was Ernest. Well, I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. Well, you're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It's absolutely absurd to say your name isn't Ernest. It's on your cards. Here is one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, V4, the Albany. I will keep this as proof your name is Ernest if you ever try to deny it to me, or to Gwendolyn, or to anyone else.
My name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. The cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her uncle. Come on, boy, you'd much rather have the whole thing out at once.
You talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It is a perfectly vulgar thing to talk like a dentist when one isn't one. It produces a false impression.
But that is exactly what dentists always do. Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I may mention that I always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I will reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now, produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
There is nothing improbable at all about my explanation. In fact, it is perfectly ordinary. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew adopted me when I was a very little boy and made me, in his will, guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who refers to me as uncle from motives of respect that you cannot possibly understand, lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prison.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy. You will not be invited. I can tell you quite candidly, though, that it is not in Shropshire.
Oh, I suspected that, my dear boy. I've Bunburied all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
I don't think you can understand my real motives. You were hardly serious enough. When one is placed in position of guardian, one must adopt a high moral tone on all subjects. And as a high moral tone cannot be said to conduce very much to one's health or one's happiness, I've always pretended to have a younger brother by the name of Ernest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, in modern literature, a complete impossibility.
That is nonsense.
Literary criticism is not my forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. You should leave that to people who haven't been at a university. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. Oh, I was quite right in saying you were a Bunburyist. Why, you were one of the most advanced Bunburyists I ever saw.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother by the name of Ernest, or that you may come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury in order that I may go down into the country whenever I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight, for I've really been engaged on Augusta for more than a week.
But I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know. You are so careless about sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people so much as not receiving invitations.
You are much better off dining with your Aunt Augusta.
I haven't the smallest intention of doing anything of the kind. To begin with, I dine there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, whenever I do dine there, I'm always treated as a member of the family. I'm either sitting next to no woman at all or 2. In the third place, I know perfectly well who she'll place me next to tonight. She will place me next to Mary Farquhar, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. That is not very pleasant. Indeed, it isn't even decent. And that sort of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly scandalous. It looks so bad. It is simply washing one's clean linen in public. Besides, now that I know you to be a confirmed Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunbury. I want to tell you the rules.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, I think I'll do it in any case. Cecily is a little too much interested in him. And I strongly advise you to do the same with with your invalid friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you ever get married, which seems to me to be extremely problematic, you will be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl that I ever saw in my life that I cared for, I certainly would not want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You don't seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
That, my dear young friend, is the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the past 50 years.
Yes, and that the happy English have proved it more than half the time.
That is nonsense. Don't try to be cynical, Algie. It is perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy being anything nowadays. There's so much beastly competition about it. That must be on Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I can get her out of the way for 10 minutes in order that you may have the opportunity of proposing to Gwendolyn, may I dine with you at Willis tonight?
I suppose so.
Yes, but you must be serious about it. I hate people who aren't serious about meals. It is so shallow.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, Algernon. I hope you're behaving quite well.
I am feeling quite well, Aunt Augusta.
It's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart, aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave little room for development, and I tend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we're a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband passed away. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, won't you come and sit here?
I'm quite comfortable where I am, Mama.
Good heavens. Lane. Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went there twice.
No cucumbers.
No, not even for ready money, sir.
That will do, Lane. Thank you. I am greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers. Not even for ready money.
Oh, it really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Oh, it certainly has changed color, but from what cause I, of course, cannot say. Oh, thank you, Algernon. Quite a treat for you tonight. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. Oh, she is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. Oh, it's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all, Aunt Augusta.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly to say a terrible disappointment to me, but the fact is I just had a telegram to tell me that my poor friend Bunbury is terribly ill again. They seem to think that I should be with him.
It's rather strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he wanted to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your uncle, although he takes no note as far as any improvements in his ailments goes. I would be obliged, Algernon, if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be so kind as to not have a relapse on Saturday, for I'm allowing you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has practically said whatever it is they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious, and I think I can promise you that he'll be all right by Saturday. However, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, people don't talk. If one plays bad music, people don't listen. But I will run over the program I've drawn out if you will kindly come to the next room for a moment.
Oh, thank you, Algernon. That is quite thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful, following a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly delightful language, and I believe it is such. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it's been, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray don't talk to me about the weather. Whenever somebody talks to me about the weather, I feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
But I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Brachel's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mama has a way of coming back into her room. That is something I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl that I've ever met since I met you.
I'm quite aware of the fact, and in public, at any rate, I wish you'd been more demonstrative. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals, and my ideal has always been to love someone of the name Ernest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. Ever since Algernon told me that he had a friend and that he was called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me.
Passionately,
You don't know how happy you've made me.
my own Ernest.
But you don't mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, but supposing it was something else. Do you mean to say that you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, it relates hardly to the facts of real life as we know them.
To speak quite frankly, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It has a music of its own. It produces vibration.
But I don't like. I just think there are much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, is a charming name.
Jack. No, there's very little music in the name Jack, if any at all. Indeed, it does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they've all proven to be, without exception, more than usually plain. And besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John. And I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She probably doesn't know the pleasure of a single moment's solitude. No, the only really safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing.
Well, surely you know that I love you. And you have led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you are not quite so indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't even proposed yet. The subject of marriage hasn't even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it an admirable idea, and to spare you any further disappointment, I think it only fair to tell you that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
But you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you've been about it. It is obvious to me you have very little experience in how to propose.
But my own one. I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Men often propose for practice. My brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite blue. I hope you'll always look at me just like that, especially when other people are present.
Mr. Worthing! Oh, surprise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mama, I must beg you to retire. Besides, Mr. Worthing hasn't quite finished yet.
Finish what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Oh, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come upon a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be, but it is hardly a matter that she should be allowed to decide for herself. And as for you, Mr. Worthing, I have a few questions to put to you. While I'm making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mama?
The carriage, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, the carriage!
Yes, Mama.
You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell, but I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. And I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has, and we work together with that. However, I am more than willing to enter your name should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Now, do you smoke?
I must admit, Lady Bracknell, that I smoke.
I'm pleased to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as there is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. Mr. Worthing, I've always been of the opinion that a young man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, it produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would probably prove a serious danger for the upper classes and lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. Well, with the duties expected from one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and it keeps one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said for land.
I also have a country house with some land attached to it, of course, about 1,500 acres. But I don't rely on this for my real income. No, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only ones that can make anything out of it.
Oh, a country house. How many, well, we can discuss that later. You do have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like our Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I have a house in Belgrave Square. It is let out by the year to a Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back anytime that I'd like with 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She is a lady of considerable advanced years.
Oh, well, these days, that's no guarantee of respectability of character. What number, Belgrave Square?
149.
Ooh, the unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could be altered.
Do you mean the side or the fashion?
Both, I presume, if necessary. Now, what are your politics?
I'm afraid I have none. I'm a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or at least come in the evening. Well, now, on to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
Both? To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, might be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise through the ranks of the aristocracy?
I do not know. You see, I told you that I had lost both my parents. It would be closer to the truth to say that they had lost me. I don't know who I am by birth. I was, well, found.
Found?
Yes, by the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a man of considerable wealth and a charitable disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing, because he happened to have a first-class ticket to Worthing in his pocket. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with the ticket to the seaside resort in his pocket find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, a rather large black leather handbag with some handles attached to it. A rather ordinary handbag.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew find this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. To say that I'm somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me, to be born, or at any rate bred in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to? And as to the particular locality in which the handbag was discovered, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. Has probably indeed been used for such a purpose before now, but it could hardly be considered as an assured basis for a position in good society.
Well, then what would you have me do, Lady Bracknell? I need hardly say that I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce one parent of either sex before the season is quite through.
But I don't quite see how I can do that. I could produce the handbag at any given moment. It is at home in my dressing room. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has this to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would ever dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with the police. Well, good day, sir.
Good day. Algie, would you stop playing that ghastly tune? How idiotic you are.
Did it go all right, oh boy? Aw, you don't mean to say Gwendolyn refused you. I notice the way she is always refusing people. I think it is most ill-natured of her.
No, Gwendolyn is right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are engaged already. Her mother, however, is absolutely unbearable. I've never met such a gorgon. Now, I don't know what a gorgon is, but I'm quite sure that Lady Bracknell is one. She is a monster without being a myth. That is rather unfair. I'm sorry, Algie. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own relations like that.
My dear boy, I love hearing my relations abused. They're the only things that make me put up with them at all. Relations are simply a tedious pack of people who haven't got the remotest knowledge about how to live, nor the slightest instinct about when to die.
It is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I'm not going to argue about it. You always want to argue about things.
But that is exactly what things were originally made for.
If I thought like that, I would shoot myself. You don't think that Gwendolyn would turn out like her mother in about 150 years, do you?
All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does, and, well, that's his.
Is that clever?
Perfectly phrased. And quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be.
I'm sick to death of clever people. You cannot go anywhere without running into clever people. It is becoming a public nuisance. I wish there were a few fools left.
We have one.
I would sure like to meet one. What do they talk about?
Oh, the fools? About clever people, of course.
What fools?
By the way, have you told Gwendolyn the truth of your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, no. The truth isn't something that one tells to a sweet, refined girl. What extraordinary ideas you have about how to behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty. And to someone else if she is plain.
That is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Ernest?
By the end of the week, I shall have killed my brother. I will say that he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it is hereditary, my dear fellow. It is the sort of thing that runs in families. You would much better say a severe chill.
And you're sure the severe chill isn't hereditary or anything?
No, of course it isn't.
Very well. My poor brother Ernest was carried off by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little too interested in poor Ernest. Won't she feel his loss a great deal?
That is quite all right. Cecily isn't one of those silly romantic girls. She takes long walks, has a capital appetite, and pays no attention to her lessons.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
I will take very good care that you never do. She is excessively pretty and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
Oh, no. That's not something that one blurts out to someone. Besides, once Gwendolyn and Cecily meet, they are sure to be great friends. I'll bet you anything you'd like that within an hour of them meeting, they will be calling each other sister.
Women only do that after they have called each other many, many other things first. Now, my dear boy, if we want to get a good table at Willis's, we must really go and dress. Did you know that it is nearly 7?
It is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to the theater?
Oh, I loathe listening.
Well, might we go to the club?
No, I hate talking.
Well, might we trot around the Empire at 10?
No, I hate looking at things. It is so silly.
Then what shall we do then?
Nothing.
It is awfully hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind work where there is no definite object to be done.
Miss Fairfax!
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Oh, really, Gwendolyn? I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strict and moral way about life, and I don't think you're quite old enough to do that.
My own darling.
Oh, Ernest, I fear we shall never be married. From the expression on Mama's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents listen to their children nowadays. The old-fashioned respect for the youth is fast dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. But though she may keep us from being man and wife, and though I may marry and marry often, nothing she can do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh, dear Gwendolyn.
The story of your romantic origin as related to me by Mama with unpleasing comments has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name is still irresistible, and the simplicity of your character is exquisitely incomprehensible. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Bolton, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service there, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something drastic, but that will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see you out to your carriage.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out to her carriage.
Yes, sir.
Ah, what have we got? Bill, and another Bill, not more. A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I shall probably not be back till Monday.
Yes, sir.
You can put all my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, my Bunbury suits in that little big bag.
Yes,
that I'll-
sir.
I hope tomorrow shall be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
There is a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl that I've ever cared for in my life. What are you so amused at?
Oh, nothing. I'm just a little anxious about more Bunbury's all.
If you don't take care, that Mr. Bunbury of yours will get you into a serious scrape one day.
Oh, I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of the flowers is rather Malton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language, and I know perfectly well I look quite plain after my German lessons.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is, that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German when he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I cannot believe he could be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is to be especially commended, and one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why he looks rather bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I am surprised in you. Mr. Worthing has had many troubles in his life. Adamant and trivialities out of place in his conversation. As a man sows, so let him reap. And by the way, you must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate man, his brother.
Well, I wish Uncle Jack will allow the unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down and visit us sometime. We could be good influences over him, Miss Prism. Well, you certainly would. You know, German and geology and those types of things influence a man very much.
Oh, I don't think even I could have any effect on one's character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I do not think I would desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. You must put away your diary, Cecily. Honestly, I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to write the wonderful secrets of my life. If I don't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that never happened or the things that could never happen. And I do believe that memory is the mere thing responsible for nearly all 3 volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? Oh, how wonderfully clever you are! I hope it didn't end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They often depress me.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but that seems rather unfair. Did your novel ever get published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word as in lost, Miss May. To your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
I do see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning, Miss Prism? You are, I trust, well.
Oh, Miss Prism actually has just been complaining of a slight headache. I do believe it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything of a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Of course, I was thinking about that and not my German lessons when the director came in.
I hope, Cecily, you're not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. We're, fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil. I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet.
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Oh, yes, he usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment. As by all accounts, that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria! My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a show with you. Oh, I find I have a headache after ball, and a walk might do it some good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter of the fall of the rupee you may omit. It is somewhat sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, and horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven in from the station. He's brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother? Did you inform him that Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, he seemed very much disappointed. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Well, ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here. I do believe you should talk to the housekeeper for a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never really met a real wicked person before. Whew, I actually feel rather frightened. I just really hope he doesn't look like everybody else. Oh, he does! Oh,
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
you are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I'm more than usually tall for my age. But yes, I'm your cousin Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm really not wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think I'm wicked.
If you are not, then you've been certainly deceiving us in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been leading a double life, pretending to be really wicked and really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, of course I have been rather reckless.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be quite proud of that. Well, I'm sure it's been rather pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
Well, I don't understand how you are here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
It's a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment I'm so anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to miss a business engagement. Mostly when one wants to retain a sense of beauty of life. Well, I insist. You should wait till my uncle arrives. He likes to talk to you about your immigrating.
About my what?
You're immigrating. He has gone to buy you an outfit.
I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
Where I believe you will be going will not require neckties. He is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he did say on dinner everything nice that you should be between this world, the next, and Australia.
Oh well, the accounts I've received in Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That's why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission if you don't mind, cousin Cecily.
Well, I'm afraid I've got no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind reforming myself this afternoon?
That's rather quick to ask you, but I believe you should try.
I will. I feel better already. That is because I'm hungry.
Oh, how thoughtful. I'm sure remember when one is leading an entirely new life. I know it needs to have regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never really have an appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A marshmallow?
No, I would sooner have the pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think it's quite right for you to talk to me this way. Miss Prism never says such things.
And Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. Why, you are the prettiest girl I ever saw in my life.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I don't know what I'll do if I catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are much too alone, dear doctor. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve such neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to present day. And you do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leads the weaker vessel astray.
But are men not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
As often I have been told, not even to her.
Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing,
Mr. Worthing.
this is indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I've returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Choswell, I hope you're well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I hope this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
More shameful depths and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Your brother Ernest? Dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him! I trust you will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence. You have at least the consolation of knowing that you were always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. Well, he had many flaws. It is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, it seems, in Paris. I received a letter last night from the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity! Dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am susceptible to drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he seemed to express a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to the tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. Joyful, or as in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation, and festival days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral as a charity sermon on behalf of the Society of Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. The bishop, who was present, was much struck by some of the analogies that I drew.
You mentioned christenings, I think, here, dear doctor. I suppose you know how to christen all right. I mean, you are continually christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poor classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested in, Mr. Worthing? Your brother, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
Most people who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But this isn't for any child, dear doctor. I'm very fond of children. No, I would like to be christened myself, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. But I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you have anything better to do, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions. The sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you like the ceremony to be performed?
Well, I might trot around 5 if that would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently in one of the outlying cottages of your own estate. Poor Jenkins, the carter, a most hard-working man.
I don't see much fun in being christened with a bunch of other babies. It seems childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will no longer intrude into a house of sorrow. I'm merely begging not to be too much bowed down by grief. What seems to us as bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of extremely obvious kind. Uncle Jack, Uncle Jack, I'm so pleased that you're back. But oh, what horrid clothes you've got on. You go and change them, Cecily.
My child, my child.
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? You look happy. You look like you got a toothache. I've got such a nice surprise for you. Guess who's in our dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about a half hour ago.
That's nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
I was told to say that. However badly he may behave in his past, he is still your brother. And you wouldn't be so heartless as just own him now, would you? Now, I want him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
My brother Ernest is in the dining room? I don't know what it all means. I think it's absurd. Good heavens.
Brother John, I've come up from town to tell you how sorry I am for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to shake his hand. I think his coming up here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. You know there must be some good in everyone, and Ernest has just been telling me all about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, who he visits very often. And you know there must be good in someone who's so kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
He's been telling you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he told me about all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't have him tell you about Bunbury or anything else for that matter. It is enough to drive somebody perfectly frantic.
Of course, I admit that the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I believe Brother John's coldness to me is particularly painful. I expected a much more enthusiastic welcome, considering it's the first time I've ever come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with him, I'll never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Very well. But it is the last time I shall ever do it. It's pleasant, is it not, to see such a perfect conciliation? I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us. Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, dear child.
We must not be premature in our judgments. I feel very happy.
You young scoundrel, Algie! I don't allow Bunbury here! You've got to get out of here at once!
I put Mr. Ernest things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right.
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage. I've unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Ernest has been called away suddenly to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
No. My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why on earth don't you go up and change? It is perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is actually staying with you for a whole week in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You've got to get out of here at once by the 4:05 train.
Well, I certainly won't leave you so long as you are in mourning. You would be most unfriendly. If I were in mourning, you would stay with me, I suppose. I would think it very unkind if you didn't.
Will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you were not too long. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with such little results.
Which is much better than you being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by being always immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct is an outrage. And your presence in my garden utterly absurd.
I know.
However, you have got to leave by the 4:05. I hope your trip back to town is a pleasant one. This bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
Hey, Jack! I think it's been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily. And that is everything. But I must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is now.
Oh, I've really come back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a lovely drive?
He's going to send me away.
Then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a very painful party.
It's always painful to part from someone you just share a brief space of time with. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity. But the momentary separation of someone you've just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Raymond, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness gives you great credit, Ernest. And if you allow me, I would like to copy your remarks in my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it, may I?
Oh, no. You see, this is simply a young girl's recollection of her thoughts, impressions, and it's consequently meant for publication only. When it appears in blank form, I do hope you buy one. But pray, Ernest, don't stop now. I delight in taking dictation and have reached absolute perfection. You may go on now. I'm quite ready for some more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When someone's dictating, they should be fluent and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. It doesn't make quite sense now, does it?
Cecily!
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come around next week. At the same hour.
Ah, yes, sir.
Uncle Jack's will be very annoyed that you're staying on until next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy. Of course. Why, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it'll be 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you became chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And you know, a man who's often talked about has to be very attractive. There must be something with him after all. And dare say, it was very foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling! When was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I decided in the matter one way or another, and after a long struggle with myself,
I accepted you behind that dear old tree right over there. And the next day, I went out and bought this ring in your name. And right here is the true lover's knot that I promise you I always wear.
Did I give you this? I mean, it's very, very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you got wonderfully good taste. It's the excuse I gave you for leading such a bad life. And right here is my dear box where I keep all your precious letters.
My letters? But my sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me that, Ernest. I remember only too often that I wrote them for you. I wrote them 3 days a week and sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, no. That'll make you far too conceited. Besides, the last 3 that you wrote me after I've broken off our engagement are so beautiful, yet so badly spelled, that I can't help but cry a little.
Whoa. Our engagement was broken off?
Yes, on the 22nd of March. You can see my diary if you like. Today, I've broken off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it better to do so. The weather still continues stormy.
But what have I done? I've done nothing at all. Cecily, I'm very much hurt indeed to hear you broke things off, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would have been hardly a real serious engagement if I didn't break it off at least once. Besides, I forgave you before the week was up.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy. I hope your hair curls naturally. Does it?
Yes, darling, with a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
You'll never break off our engagement again, won't you, Cecily?
I don't think I have to break it off now ever since we officially met. Besides, there's the question of your name.
Oh, yes, of course.
You mustn't laugh at me, darling. But always been my girlish dream to marry a man who was named Ernest. I just believe that name inspires absolute confidence. I just pity any other woman whose husband is not named Ernest.
That's my dear child. You mean to say that you couldn't love me if I had some other name?
But what other name?
Any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling. I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. In fact, it is a rather aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algernon, couldn't you love me?
I may respect you, Ernest. I may admire your character, but I don't believe I can give you my full, undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here, I suppose, is thoroughly experiencing all the rites and the practices of the ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes. Dr. Chauvel is the most learned man. He hasn't read any single book, so you can just imagine all he knows.
I must see him at once on a most important christening. I mean, on most important business. I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Well, considering that we've been engaged since the February 14th and only met just today, I do believe it's rather hard that you'd be gone for so long as a half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I really like his hair. I gotta put his proposal in my diary.
Miss Fairfax has come to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Well, isn't Mr. Worthing in his study?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Well, pray ask the lady to come here. Mr. Worthing should be back very soon, and you can bring tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose it's one of the many elderly women who helped Uncle Jack with his philanthropic work in London. I don't like women who's involved with philanthropic work. So very bored of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name's Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say, and my first impressions of people are never wrong.
Well, how nice of you to say you like me so much after we just met for such a short period of time. Pray, sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure,
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
if you wish.
Then it is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps this is a favorable time for me mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You've heard of Papa, I suppose.
I don't think so.
Papa, outside the family home, I'm pleased to say, is entirely unknown. I think that's quite as it should be. The home seems to be the proper sphere for a man, and once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, and I do not like that. It makes a man so very attractive. Cecily, Mom, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has raised me to be very short-sighted. Do you mind me looking at you through my glass?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm quite fond of being looked at.
You were here on short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no. I live here.
Your mother or some female relative of advanced years resides here also?
Oh, no. I have no mother, nor in fact any relation.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian.
Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
How strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. However, I cannot say that this inspires me with unmixed feelings of delight. I'm very fond of you, Cecily. I've liked you ever since I've met you. But now, knowing that you're Mr. Worthing's ward, I can't help but wish that you were a little older than you seem to be and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Pray do. I believe when anyone has anything unpleasant to say, they should speak quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, I wish you were full 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong and upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honor. Dishonesty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the most noble character can fall susceptible to the physical charms of others. Modern history, no less, provides us with many most painful examples. If it did not, it would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn, but did you say Ernest?
Yes.
But it's not Mr. Ernest Worthing who's my guardian. It's his brother. His older brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
Well, I'm afraid they've not been on the best of terms in quite some time.
Oh, that accounts for it. And now that I think on it, the subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if a cloud had come across a friendship like ours. Now, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
I'm quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dear Gwendolyn, I must not make it a secret to you any longer. Our little country newspaper is going to chronicle the fact by the end of next week that Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
How strange! For I am engaged to Ernest Worthing. The Morning Post will make an announcement Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you're under some misconception, dear Gwendolyn. Ernest just proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never leave home without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train ride. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if this causes you any mental or physical anguish, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I could tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
Whatever foolish promise my dear boy has gotten himself into, I will consider it my duty to rescue him, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy has got himself into, I will not reapproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as entrapment? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest to an engagement? How dare you? Now is not the time to wear that little shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is clearly obvious our social spheres are widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any nice walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
No, yes. I went on one of those fairy hills once in about 5 counties.
5 counties. I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
I'm so glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I hadn't any idea that any flowers grew up in the country.
Oh, flowers are just as common here as people are in London.
I don't know how anybody manages to exist in the country. If anybody who anybody does, the country always bores me to death.
This is what we call agricultural depression, is it not? I do believe the aristocracy is suffering more from it just at present. It's an epidemic amongst them, I've been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Yes, detestable girl, I require tea.
Sugar.
No, sugar isn't fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the finest houses nowadays.
And that's Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To say my poor innocent trusting word from the machinations of any young girl, there are no lands where I would not go.
You are deceitful. From the moment I met you, I knew you were untrustworthy, and my first impressions of people are never wrong.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, I've certainly been trespassing on your valuable time. I certainly have other calls of similar character within the neighborhood. Ernest!
My own Ernest.
My own one!
A moment. May I ask if you are to be engaged to this young lady?
So, dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I knew there must have been some misunderstanding, dear Gwendolyn. You see, the gentleman whose arm is currently present around her waist is my dear guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack. Oh.
Here is Ernest.
My love.
A moment, Ernest. Kindly answer me a question. Are you engaged to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean to Gwendolyn.
No, of course not. What could put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I felt there was some slight error. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh, are you really called Algernon?
Well, I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I can deny it if I liked. I can deny anything if I liked. But my name really is John. It has been John for years.
And gross as deception has been practiced on the both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
I'm sorry, wrong, Gwendolyn.
You will call me sister, will you not?
But there's just one question I would like to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. There's just one question that I'd like to put to the both of you. Where is your brother Ernest? We're both engaged to your brother Ernest, so it is some importance we know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn and Cecily, it pains me very much to speak the truth, for it is the first time in my life that I've ever been reduced to such a painful position. But I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother. I have never had a brother, and I don't intend to have a brother in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
No brother of any kind.
Never. Not even of any kind.
This is not any position any of you want to promise me, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly get you to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes! And a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is too. The most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, you have no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
Oh, that is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious bunburyist. Good heavens!
Well, one must be serious about something if one wants to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about Bunburying. What on earth are you amused at? I haven't the remotest idea. About everything I should fancy, you have such a trivial nature.
Well, the only enjoyment I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to come down to the country as often as you used to, and not a good thing either.
Your brother is a little off color, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
And as for your conduct toward Miss Cardew, I think you're taking in a simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward!
I can see no possible defense at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin!
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I wanted to be engaged with her. That is all.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
I don't think there's any likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it were my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's own business. Only people like stockbrokers do that in merely dinner parties.
How can you sit there calmly eating muffins when we are in this horrible trouble? I can't make out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner! The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should eat muffins quite calmly. Shh. It's the only way to eat them.
I think your eating muffins at all is perfectly heartless given the circumstances.
When I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I'm in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except for food and drink. At the present moment, I am eating muffins because I'm unhappy.
Well, that is no reason for you to eat them all in that greedy way.
And Jack, I want you to have tea cake instead. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens! I suppose a man may be able to eat some muffins in his own garden.
But you have just said it is perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you, given the circumstances.
That may be true, but the muffins are the same. Algernon, I wish you would go. You can't possibly ask me to go without having my dinner first. It's absurd. I never go without my dinner. No one ever does except for vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I've just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
The sooner you put that nonsense out of your head, the better. I have already made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:30. Naturally, I will take the name Ernest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Ernest. It is absurd. And besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I'd like to. There's no evidence at all that I ever was, and I think it extremely probable that I never was. and so does Dr. Choswell. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I haven't been christened in years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
Quite so I know my constitution can stand it. If you're not quite sure if you're ever being christened, I must say I think it rather dangerous on your venturing on it now. You'd have hardly forgotten that someone very closely connected with you was nearly carried off in this week in Paris by severe chill.
But you said that a severe chill wasn't hereditary.
I know. It used to be, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
That is nonsense. You're always talking nonsense.
Jack, you were at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There are only 2 left. I told you, I was particularly fond of muffins.
But I hate tea cake.
Why on earth you rock circling to your yes? What idea did you have of hospitality?
Algernon, I have already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
Because I haven't quite finished my tea yet. And there's still 1 muffin left.
Bacon eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
Notices couldn't you call?
But I haven't a call.
They're looking at us.
They're approaching. That's so very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly. It's the only thing to do now.
Dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worth, I have a few questions to put to you, and much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the question of why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have the opportunity of meeting you.
That seems like a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't, but that doesn't hide the certain beauty of his answer.
Yes, in matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, why did you pretend to have a younger brother? Was it that you met him up to town to see me as often as you would like?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the time for German skepticism. Their answers seem to produce
Mr. Moncrief has said. His voice of law inspires absolute credulity.
You think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
Oh, I had forgotten about that. There are principles that state that one cannot sacrifice. Which of us should tell them the task is not a pleasant one?
Can we both not speak at the same time?
Oh, yes, I nearly always speak at the same time as others. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly. Your Christian names are still an insufferable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, are you prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, are you ready to face this fearful ordeal?
Oh, I am.
How dare we talk of the equality of the sexes for matters of self-sacrifice? Our concerns of men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage that we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Merely that I'm engaged to Mr. Worthington.
Oh, come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, of physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin, I followed her at once by luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I'm glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme on the influence of a permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him on this. In fact, I have never undeceived him on any point. But you must surely know that from this moment on, all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards my nephew Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask if it is in this house in which your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? Oh, his death must have been extremely sudden. When did Mr. Bunbury die?
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Oh, he was quite, exploded. Yeah.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
My dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that Bunbury could not live. That is what I mean, so Bunbury died.
He must have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. Well, I'm glad that at the last he made up his mind to a definite course of action. And now that we've gotten rid of this Mr. Bunbury, Mr. Worthing, would you be so kind as to tell me who is this young person whom my nephew Algernon is holding hands with in what seems to me to be a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That young lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward. I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there is anything particularly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but it seems to me the number of engagements that go on around here is far above the average that statistics have laid down for our proper guidance. I think that, given the circumstances, some preliminary inquiry on my part is not out of the question. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew in any way at all related to any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I was not aware that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire.
That is not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guide for the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known grave errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby, a firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I'm told that one of the Mr. Markbys may be occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I'm satisfied.
Oh, that is extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I also have in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, registration, vaccination, confirmation, whooping cough, and the measles, both in the English and the German variety.
Oh, a life crowded with incident, I see. Although perhaps too crowded for a young lady. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Ah, come, Gwendolyn. The time approaches for our departure. We must hurry. Get your things together. I suppose, as a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I should ask if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, only 130,000 pounds in the funds. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
130,000 pounds. In the funds. Oh, it seems to me that Miss Cardew is a most lovely girl. Now that I look at her, so few girls today have any of the really solid qualities, any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Oh, come here, pretty child. Come here. Oh, dear child, your dress is sadly simple in that. Your hair seems almost as nature might have left it, but we can soon remedy all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid can produce a marvelous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Lansing once, and within 3 months her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around, dear child. No. The side view is what I want. Oh, yes, just as I thought. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style depends largely on how the chin is worn. They're worn very high at the present. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
Algernon, there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the dearest, sweetest, and prettiest girl in the whole world, and I don't give 2 pence about social possibilities.
Oh, never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Well, dear, I'm sure you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stop me. I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, and you may address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I think the marriage had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Oh, if I speak frankly, I'm not in favor of long engagements. They give people the opportunity to get to know each other's character before marriage, and that's never advisable.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but I'm Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may even say an ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one want?
It pains me very much to have to speak quite frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I fear there could be no possible doubt about the subject. Yesterday afternoon, on my temporary absence to London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house under the false pretense of being my brother. Under an assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of Perrier Jouet Brut 89, a wine I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of an afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin.
And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he knew from the first that I have no brother. I've never had a brother. And I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided to entirely overlook my nephew's conduct toward you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Dear child, come here. How old are you?
Well, I'm nearly only 18, but I always meant to be 20 at evening parties.
You are quite right to make some slight alteration. No woman should ever be completely accurate about her age. It looks so calculated. 18, but admitting to 20 at evening parties. Well, you will soon be of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I do not think that the permission of your guardian is a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me for interrupting you again, Lady Bracknell, but I feel the need to inform you that, according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not legally come of age until she is 35.
I see that is no grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free will, remained 35 for years. Lady Dumbleton is a case in point. She has remained 35 ever since she arrived at the age of 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear, sweet Cecily will not be even more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is now. There will be a large accumulation of property.
Algie, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I thought instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I could merely wait 5 minutes, but I know that makes me feel rather cross, as I'm not punctual myself, but I like the punctuality of others, and just waiting to just be married is almost unbearable.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states that she positively cannot wait until she is 35, a statement which seems to me to show a very impatient nature, I must beg of you to reconsider.
The decision on the matter, however, Lady Bracknell, is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I will gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
Surely you must know that what you ask is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny that I have proposed for Gwendolyn. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, Gwendolyn, we must get on the train. We've already missed 5 or 6. To miss any more will expose us to comment on the platform.
Oh, excuse me. Everything is quite ready for the christening.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Christenings? Is not that somewhat premature?
But both of these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not approve of such excesses. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that that was the way in which you wasted your time and money.
Am I to understand then there to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as the way things are now, it would be of very much practical use to either of us, Dr. Chosbull.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor of heretical views of Anabaptists, views that I have completely refuted in 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, your present mood is one peculiarly secular. I will return to the church at once. I have also just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I'm on my way to join her.
Pray, let me detain you a moment, Reverend Chasuble. This matter may prove to be of grave importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies and is the picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your house?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the past 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must speak to her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism? Come here, Prism! Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator containing a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered alone in a remote corner of Bayswater at midnight. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I must admit with a shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, the day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out of its pram. I also had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place my manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written in my few unoccupied hours. And in a moment of mental abstraction, I can never forgive myself. I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and put the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Oh, do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
I must know what you did with the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in a cloakroom at one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait for me here.
If you are not so long, I would like you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
I dare not speculate, Dr. Chasuble. I need not tell you that in families of high position, strange occurrences are not supposed to happen. They're hardly considered the thing.
Uncle Ted is strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This noise is very unpleasant. Sounds as if you were having an argument. I dislike all arguments. They're always vulgar and often convincing.
It has stopped now.
I wish you would arrive at some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope you like it.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
Yes, it seems to be mine. Here's the injury it received in an upsetting of Gower Street on the bustling younger and happier days. Here on the lining is the stain caused by the explosion of a Timbers beverage, an incident that happened in Leamington. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had been placed there. I'm so unexpectedly delighted to have it returned to me. It has been a great inconvenience without it all these years.
But more is restored to you than just this handbag, Miss Prism. You see, I was the baby you placed inside.
You?
Yes, Mother!
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? I admit this is a serious blow. But why should one cast stones against one who has suffered?
Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Mother, I forgive you!
Mr. Worthing, there seems to be some error here. There is the woman who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, excuse me for being inquisitive, but would you mind informing me of who I really am?
I'm afraid that the news I have to tell you will not be altogether pleasing to you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? So I do have a brother after all. I always said that I had a brother. Cecily, how come you ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolyn, my unfortunate brother. Hunky, you young scoundrel! You will have to behave to me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy. I admit I did my best. However, I was out of practice.
My own one, but what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you're with someone else?
I had quite forgotten the fact. I suppose your decision on my name is irrevocable.
I never changed, except in my affections.
You want to know what nature you had, Gwendolyn?
Well, then the matter had been settled at once. Aunt Augusta, a moment. At the moment that Miss Prism deposited me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished upon you by your fond and doting parents.
So I had been christened. That is settled. But what was my Christian name? Please let me know the worst.
Well, naturally, being the eldest son, you were christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I can't quite at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was. I have no doubt that he had one. He was an eccentric, but that was in later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate and marriage and indigestion and things of that nature.
Algy, might you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were barely on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
Might his name appear on the military lists of the last century?
Well, the general was essentially a man of peace, except for his domestic affairs. But I have no doubt that his name would appear on any military roll.
The military lists are here. These delightful records should have been my constant form of study. Let's see. M generals. Malum, Maximum, Magley, Marshall. What ghastly names they have. Barnby, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief. Lieutenant 1840, Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, General. 1869. Christian names. Ernest John. Gwendolyn, I always told you that my name was Ernest. I mean, naturally, it is Ernest.
Yes, now I remember that the general's Christian name was Ernest. I knew I had a particular reason for disliking that name.
Ernest, my own Ernest, I felt from the first you could have no other name.
It is a terrible thing for a man to find out that he's told nothing but the truth for his whole life. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I'm sure you are changed.
My own one.
At last.
Cecily, at last.
At last. Frederick!
Oh,
Oh, my nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, for the first time in my life, I have realized the vital importance of being earnest.